Network. And my guest is John Mashni. He's an entrepreneur. He is an author. He's a professor. He's an attorney. He does a lot of things. John, just to wrap up last segment, we were talking about clarity breaks and how powerful they've been for you. And I was sharing they've been powerful for me as well in both business and personal life. In my personal life, I have an issues list that I create. And sometimes those issues, I need to IDS the issue or identify, discuss, and solve it with my wife, which is interesting because that always goes well if I don't tell her we're doing IDS, right? But it's awkward because I've got the list. And so I'll have it like over here and I'll be like, if we talk about, whatever it is, what are your thoughts? And then she'll be like, okay, we'll talk through that. But on another issue, what are you thinking about? And then she's like, are you IDS? You got a list? You're IDSing me, aren't you? You're EOSing me. I'm like, nope, I'm not. We're just talking, but it is powerful. So, hey, before we get into your favorite inspirational movie scene, song, or poem, let the listeners know the names of your books. So there's 4 that have been published.
Yep.
What are they?
It's called Cinder Toot, the story of Cinderella, except with kind of a twist.
Yeah.
The second book is called Santa Toot, which is again toot themed, but it's Christmas themed. The third one is Children of Cinder Toot, which is a sequel to the first. And then the fourth one that just came out is called Minpunzel, a Hairy Tale, and it's my version of Rapunzel, except there's a man in the tower and a gender switch for who rescues. So really fun book. Really, I joke it's only partly semi autobiographical, but it's really really fun bok. You can find them on Amazon. You can go to my website, johnmashni.com, and see there's a bunch of fun stuff on there.
John Mashni, MASHNI.com, and you can find them. And the books are all available on Amazon, so you can find them under John Mashni. And I would recommend them. John's a great storyteller. And while we're on that topic, John, let's talk about what has inspired you. And I know that this could go on. There's so many things that probably have inspired you. You're a movie buff. What comes to mind when I say favorite inspirational movie scene, song, or poem? Does anything jump out?
Yeah, I think one of my favorite movies growing up was the first Superman movie. It's always been important to me. I wrote a whole article about that movie and how it affects me, particularly the scene where his father passes away from a heart attack and he has to deal with, he has all these powers, but he can't save his own father.
Yeah.
And how he already had lost his, original father or actual biological father, and dealing with losing loved ones, and how do you kind of pass on who you are to the next generation, to somebody else. And his, father from his home planet, basically recorded all his memories so that his son could have access to it. And that resonated with me as a kid. And now I wrote a whole article, why I write. That's why I write. That's why I wrote over 100 articles, trying to share what I'm thinking, maybe with my kids, maybe with somebody else, but just share that.
Yeah. And your kid, I think that's really powerful. Your kids will have that forever. And it's a way of sharing a part of you and who you are and what you're made of, that's going to be there for eternity. And I had not thought of that scene. I haven't seen that movie in a long time. Like you, I'm a movie buff, and I love films, and I find inspiration in films all the time. I've told listeners in the past that some of my greatest inspirational moments have come out of the Rocky theme movies.
Yeah.
And especially when he's talking to his son about his son being frustrated that he's going to fight. Rocky's older, and his son doesn't want him to do it. And his son is blaming his father for some of the things that aren't going well in his life. And Rocky's response is, it's not how hard you hit in life, it's how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. And that whole scene of him talking to his son and saying, if you know what you're worth, go get what you're worth, but don't blame everybody else and don't point fingers. That's what cowards do, right? And to me, that there's so many lessons that authors can put into a scene that make it inspirational for us. And that's probably one of the reasons why you fell in love with movies. You went to film school, you were going to, you started out down that path, and then the law called you, right? So.
Well, I agree on all the Rocky stuff. I mean, it's completely inspirational, and particularly it traces, Sylvester Stallone's life a lot of times, where he'd learned a lot of lessons and people counted him out. they didn't think he could be a leading man. So then he goes and makes that movie Rocky Balboa, right, where he says, "Hey, it's not about how hard you can get how about hard you get hit, right? It's like how hard you
Yeah.
hit back."
Well, what people don't, I think people don't realize is that, he was, had an offer to sell Rocky one, but without him in it for like a
Yeah.
lot of money. And he was like pretty much homeless at the time and an unknown actor, but he refused unless he could play the part. And it didn't happen like overnight. It's not like they came back and said, okay, like he threw all his cards on the table. Like it was like the big gamble, right? And I saw an interview with him where he said, I knew I might not ever get this opportunity again. The material was that good. And, although I was tempted to take the money because, he had to sell his dog, because
Yeah.
he couldn't afford to feed it. Um, but it all worked out. So there are a lot of parallels from film to life. So I want to thank you, John, for being with us. Again, go
No,
to johnmashni.com. You will find out more about John and his various endeavors. And I appreciate your time today.
thanks, Mike. Always great to chat.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for listening, everybody. You've been listening to Getting a Grip on the Michigan Business Network. And as always, I will catch you on the flip side.